Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Beyond the Gates channel. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit like for more daily drama updates and spoilers. Your support truly means a lot and helps our channel grow every day. Now, let's jump straight into today's exciting update. Danger is closing in from every direction in Fairmont Crest, and with every passing day, the walls seem to tighten around the people who call this town home. Secrets are no longer staying buried, suspicions are spreading like wildfire, and every decision threatens to reshape lives forever. At the heart of the growing storm stands Joey, a man desperately trying to keep multiple crises from spiraling completely out of control. His sister has unexpectedly arrived in town with an agenda that immediately puts Smitty in danger, while another battle brews much closer to home as Deanna, Vanessa's fiercely protective daughter, refuses to accept Joey's relationship with her mother. The coming days promise emotional explosions, dangerous confrontations, and revelations that could leave permanent scars. Weekly teasers hint that Joey will deliberately provoke Deanna into losing control just as Randy's carefully constructed cover begins to crumble, setting the stage for a week where every move feels like walking across a minefield. The tension had already begun building on Monday, July 20th, as Kat found herself reflecting on matters of the heart with Nicole at the hospital before continuing the conversation later with Ted at Orphe Jeans. Ted gently reminded Kat that if Thomas was still hurting after being rejected at the wedding, then she had to allow him the space and time to process his pain on his own terms. At the same time, he couldn't hide how proud he was of her for taking a major step forward by purchasing her new condo, a milestone that symbolized her growing independence. Yet the warmth of that conversation quickly faded when Kat shared Naomi's deeply personal secret with Nicole, leaving Nicole devastated that their family hadn't been there to support Naomi during one of the most frightening moments of her life. The emotional weight hanging over the family only continued to grow, reminding everyone that even the strongest families can find themselves divided by fear, silence, and impossible choices. Elsewhere, another emotional battlefield unfolded inside Danny's home as Bill appeared with intentions that immediately reopened old wounds. He implied that perhaps the two of them still shared something worth pursuing, suggesting there might be room for another passionate affair between them. Danny wanted absolutely no part of revisiting that chapter of her life, refusing to let his words weaken her resolve. Bill insisted that their chemistry had always been undeniable, only to later backtrack and claim he hadn't truly meant what he'd suggested. Before either of them could untangle the complicated emotions between them, Nicole unexpectedly arrived. For one agonizing moment, Danny feared Nicole had uncovered the truth about her past encounter with Bill, but Nicole's visit had an entirely different purpose. Instead, an accidental slip exposed Naomi's consideration of undergoing a double mastectomy, leaving Danny visibly shaken as the devastating reality crashed down around her. While some relationships fractured under pressure, another unexpectedly blossomed. Ted finally opened his heart to Shanice, confessing that he had fallen in love with her. The admission caught Shanice completely off guard, sending her emotions into turmoil as she hurried away, claiming she needed time to think. Her uncertainty wasn't born from a lack of feelings, but from the emotional scars left behind by previous relationships that had taught her to protect herself at all costs. After an honest conversation with Ashley helped her sort through the confusion clouding her heart, Shanice made a decision that changed everything. She sought Ted out at his hotel room and admitted that she loved him too, explaining that fear, not doubt, had caused her initial reaction. In that tender, vulnerable moment, two people who had both endured heartbreak finally allowed themselves to believe that love could still be worth the risk. Meanwhile, Thomas attempted to drown his frustrations at Uptown while confiding in bartender Grayson, who had recently spent time with Ashley and offered a sympathetic ear. When Kat finally caught up with him, the conversation became one of honesty rather than conflict. They managed to clear the air before Thomas prepared to leave for a vacation in Puerto Rico, though one concern continued to linger in his mind. Naomi's presence still made him uneasy, and despite their reconciliation, he admitted that he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He asked Kat to quietly keep her eyes and ears open around Naomi while he was away, hoping she might notice something he couldn't. Before the evening ended, Bill stopped by and immediately reignited his familiar verbal sparring with Kat, exchanging sharp insults before Kat ultimately turned her attention back to Thomas, promising she would personally drive him to the airport as they parted on much better terms than they had shared in weeks. The following day brought another emotional avalanche as Danny revealed Naomi's health status to Anita and Vernon. She explained that Naomi had concealed the truth about her BRCA gene results because she didn't want her already burdened family carrying even more emotional weight. Anita was overcome with guilt, blaming herself for not somehow seeing the warning signs sooner. After Vernon quietly stepped away, Danny shared the even more painful revelation that Naomi was seriously considering a preventative double mastectomy. Desperate and frightened, Danny begged Anita to convince Naomi not to go through with such a life-altering procedure. Across town, another family worked through its own emotional divide as Jacob encouraged Elon to make peace with Isaiah. Their lunch at Orphe Jean's began exactly as expected, with tension, frustration, and years of unresolved resentment. But little by little, honest conversation broke through the hostility, allowing father and son to reach a place of understanding neither believed possible only hours earlier. At the same restaurant, Vanessa and Nicole checked in with June, who proudly celebrated Terrell's bright future as he prepared for college. June's gratitude radiated through every word as she reflected on simply being alive and present to witness such an important milestone in her son's life. Once alone together, Vanessa and Nicole naturally turned their attention toward Deanna, whose hatred for Joey had become impossible to ignore. Nicole couldn't quite believe Deanna's recent change in attitude, warning Vanessa not to trust such a sudden transformation too quickly. Their conversation eventually drifted toward Nicole's own complicated romantic life, where she admitted that Kiel had been incredibly supportive after the devastating tornado. Even so, she wasn't ready to choose between Kyle and Carlton just yet, confessing with a smile that she was simply enjoying herself and seeing where life might lead. Inside the hospital, Kiel crossed paths with Ava during one of Shanice's physical therapy appointments, creating an opportunity for an unexpectedly meaningful conversation. Ava confessed that her father's constant worrying had become suffocating, leaving her frustrated that he refused to let her return to work. Rather than dismiss her feelings, Kyle offered a perspective she had never fully considered. He reminded her of the unimaginable terror Ted had endured while both of his daughters fought for their lives during their transplant surgeries, explaining that such trauma doesn't simply disappear once the crisis ends. Hearing that truth softened Ava's frustration almost instantly. She decided she would ease up on her father, and before the conversation ended, she warmly told Kyle that Nicole was lucky to have someone as compassionate as him in her life. Nearby, Shanice could hardly contain the happiness glowing from her face as she shared the joyful news of her relationship with Ted. Kiel, unable to keep such wonderful news to himself, later repeated everything to Nicole. The revelation caught Nicole completely by surprise, and hearing that Shanice and Ted had already reached the I love you stage forced emotions she hadn't expected to confront. Although she congratulated them, her visible hesitation didn't escape Kyle's notice. Watching her reaction carefully, he quietly wondered whether Nicole still held on to feelings for Ted, despite everything that had happened between them. Elsewhere, Marcel approached Jacob with a proposal to return undercover and gather valuable intelligence from someone behind bars, but Jacob firmly refused. His priorities had changed, and nothing would distract him from the responsibilities already consuming his life. Elon wasted no time confronting Marcel afterward, making it crystal clear that any future operation involving Jacob would require his approval first. Wednesday brought another heartbreaking chapter in Naomi's medical journey as Danny once again pleaded with Anita to convince her granddaughter not to undergo a double mastectomy. Anita refused to interfere, insisting that Naomi alone had the right to make decisions about her own body. Danny understood the principle, even if accepting it proved almost impossible. Naomi later gathered the courage to tell Bill everything herself, expecting resistance or panic. Instead, Bill calmly embraced her decision, expressing nothing but pride and unconditional support. His reaction stunned Naomi, who had braced herself for a fight, but instead found understanding where she least expected it. Sometimes the strongest acts of love come not from changing someone's mind, but from standing beside them, no matter which path they choose. Elsewhere, Haley secretly met with Randy at Uptown and confidently assured him that she had solved the Lynette problem by steering Smitty's suspicions toward Leah Whitmore instead. She believed the deception would keep Randy safely hidden while their dangerous game continued. Her ambitions, however, stretched far beyond simply protecting their secrets. She openly confessed that she wanted Bill permanently out of the picture, dreaming instead of escaping to St. Bart's for a glamorous new beginning, reminiscent of reclaiming her life on her own terms. At the same time, Shanice checked in with Nicole following the news Kyle had accidentally shared. Nicole admitted that the situation initially felt strange, but assured Shanice she genuinely wanted happiness for both her and Ted. Meanwhile, Naomi visited Anita and Vernon, finally opening her heart to her grandmother about her positive genetic test and explaining why she believed preventative surgery might offer her the best chance at protecting her future. Anita listened with compassion, but gently challenged Naomi's thinking. She pointed out that Naomi couldn't expect understanding for her own preventative medical choices while refusing to extend that same understanding toward Danny's decisions regarding her own cancer risks. The wisdom struck Naomi deeply, forcing her to recognize that empathy had to flow in both directions. Across town, an entirely different connection quietly began forming when Deanna paid for a stranger's peach cobbler after discovering he couldn't afford it. The simple act of kindness sparked an immediate bond between them as they discovered they had both experienced the heartbreak of losing a parent. The stranger introduced himself as Noah Rollins, a talented musician who also happened to be Kyle's son. Their conversation carried an easy chemistry that hinted this chance encounter might be only the beginning of something meaningful. Noah soon visited the hospital where he reunited with his father and met Nicole for the first time in years. Their reunion carried optimism, especially after Kyle hinted that he might help Noah secure the general manager position at the free clinic. But as hope quietly blossomed in one corner of Fairmont Crest, danger crept into another. Haley arrived carrying what appeared to be nothing more than a healthy smoothie for Bill. Moments after she left, Bill suddenly collapsed without warning. The frightening incident left him unconscious until he eventually regained consciousness, confused and alarmed, unable to understand what had just happened to him or why his body had seemingly betrayed him without explanation. Thursday's events only deepened the mystery surrounding Bill's deteriorating condition. After stumbling badly on his way to Danny's table at the country club, he insisted everything was fine. despite the obvious signs that something was terribly wrong. Their conversation centered on Naomi, with Danny expressing surprise that Bill had accepted their daughter's decision so calmly. Despite their differences, they found common ground in agreeing that they both stood firmly on Team Naomi, determined to support her no matter what. At Orphe Jeans, Naomi discussed her mother's reaction to the BRCA diagnosis with Andre, while Smitty sought Jacob's assistance in gaining access to red market criminal Leah Whitmore, hoping to uncover the truth behind Lynette's disappearance. Smitty questioned her, but came away with few concrete answers. Comparing notes with Naomi and later receiving valuable information from June about a friend falsely accused of Haley's mugging only convinced them that an even larger conspiracy was beginning to emerge beneath the surface. Vernon later shared a heartfelt conversation with Bill, offering sincere friendship and reminding him he didn't have to face life's challenges alone. Bill acknowledged just how far their relationship had evolved, appreciating the unexpected bond they had built despite their difficult history. Their conversation was briefly interrupted when Ariana Wood introduced herself as Vernon's future colleague at the consulting firm he had recently joined. As Vernon departed, he and Bill exchanged a respectful handshake, symbolizing the mutual respect that had finally replaced years of conflict. Yet Bill's mysterious condition refused to disappear as he stumbled yet again while leaving the club. This time, Jacob witnessed the alarming moment firsthand, leaving another observer concerned that Bill's health crisis was rapidly escalating. Back at Anita and Vernon's home, Laura helped Anita write heartfelt thank you notes expressing gratitude for every gift, prayer, and act of kindness she had received during her cancer battle. The emotional task became even more meaningful when Anita presented Laura with a special gift of appreciation for encouraging her to schedule the mammogram that ultimately saved her life. Elsewhere, Haley informed Randy that Bill had survived the earlier scare, relieving him for the moment. During Haley's brief absence, Randy shared a conversation with Mona, who casually dismissed his concerns about missing church services, insisting she wasn't keeping tabs on his every move. As soon as Mona walked away, Haley issued Randy a chilling warning to stay far away from her, reminding him there was absolutely no reason for him to suddenly develop a conscience now. As evening settled over Fairmont Crest, Andre visited Danny carrying an unexpected package that had been left waiting at her door. Inside was a bottle of champagne accompanied by a card celebrating Danny and Andre's wedding with belated congratulations from an anonymous sender. While Danny initially viewed the gift as a thoughtful surprise, Andre reacted with unmistakable terror. The sight of the bottle and handwritten card visibly rattled him, triggering memories or fears he refused to explain. He desperately called the number connected to the mysterious sender, only to discover it had been disconnected. The unanswered questions hanging in the air made it painfully clear that whatever haunted Andre's past was beginning to catch up with him. Friday only intensified those fears as Andre continued staring uneasily at the champagne bottle while refusing to explain his disturbing behavior. Vanessa arrived to comfort Danny, prompting Andre to use the visit as an excuse to leave, claiming he was heading to the country club to practice his golf swing. Vanessa focused on reassuring Danny through the emotional uncertainty surrounding Naomi's BRCA diagnosis and the possibility of preventive surgery. Meanwhile, Chelsea convinced Eva to join her for a live stream at Orphe Jeans, where Eva courageously shared the remarkable story of her transplant journey from the devastating tornado through her difficult recovery. Out of respect, they deliberately kept Kat's identity private, referring to her only as Renee throughout the broadcast. Yet the live stream unintentionally revealed Andre appearing in the background. immediately exposing that he had lied about where he had gone. At the country club, Kat couldn't ignore how naturally Chelsea and Eva seemed to connect. Watching their growing friendship stirred feelings of loneliness and jealousy she struggled to hide. She vented to Samantha, while the younger woman simply wished everyone could finally stop fighting and learn to coexist peacefully. When Chelsea arrived after the live stream ended, Kat's bottled up emotions erupted. She confessed that she already felt as though she'd lost Ava to everyone else in her life, and now it seemed Chelsea was taking her away as well. Unable to bear the pain any longer, Kat abruptly stood and walked away, leaving behind a silence filled with heartbreak and misunderstanding. Elsewhere, Elon confronted Jacob with difficult truths about his growing obsession. He pointedly observed that Jacob had been spending far too much time working alongside Smitty, reminding his son that journalists didn't receive special treatment simply because they shared personal friendships. Any future requests for information would have to proceed through proper official channels. Elon also challenged Jacob to confront an even harsher reality that despite all his dedication, he might never uncover the true identity of the elusive impaler. The warning landed heavily, forcing Jacob to question whether his relentless pursuit was consuming more of his life than he was willing to admit. The final moments of the week delivered perhaps the most ominous twist of all. Joey's sister, Heather, unexpectedly arrived at his casino after traveling all the way from London with one very specific purpose. She claimed she had unfinished business involving Bradley Smitty Smith, whose investigative reporting had become increasingly dangerous to people with secrets worth protecting. Joey immediately warned Heather not to make any reckless moves, reminding her that Smitty was married to a congressman and that targeting him could unleash consequences neither of them wanted. Heather remained completely unfazed. She promised she would back off only if Joey could convince Smitty to stop writing and talking about the impaler altogether. Moments later, while Joey stepped away to conduct business elsewhere, Vanessa wandered into the casino's private poker room and encountered Heather waiting alone. Curious about the mysterious woman, Vanessa innocently asked who she was. Heather smiled with quiet confidence and responded with a remark designed to shake Vanessa to her core, coolly suggesting that Vanessa couldn't possibly have believed she was the only woman in Joey's life. As one explosive week ended, an even more dangerous one stood ready to begin. An anonymous gift would continue haunting Andre while Pamela delivered career-changing news to Danny. Vanessa would begin digging into Heather's true identity. Martin would lose his temper with Anastasia, and Ted would dangerously overstep his boundaries with Nicole. Naomi would attempt to heal the growing rift between Chelsea and Kat. Leslie would dramatically hijack Eva's interview. Deanna and Noah would reconnect. Nicole would turn to Danny for romantic guidance. Andre would finally attempt to reveal the secret weighing on his soul to Ted, and Shanice would begin making hopeful plans for the future. The Dupree family would rush together after Anita called an unexpected gathering. Noah would cross paths with a legendary figure. Leslie would bring urgent news to Ted. Vanessa would deliver a brutal reality check, and Ashley and Grayson would redefine their relationship. Nicole and Kyle would soon find themselves stunned while Danny witnessed something she never expected to see. Bill would become trapped between escalating conflicts involving Haley, Naomi, and Chelsea, and Martin would begin questioning Kat about a suspicious conversation she shared with Smitty. Finally, everything would build toward a dramatic climax as Danny confronted Bill. The Dupree cousins pieced together Haley's growing web of inconsistencies. Joey deliberately provoked Deanna into an emotional outburst just as Randy's carefully hidden identity teetered on the edge of exposure, and Vanessa found herself haunted by lingering questions about the mysterious Heather, with loyalties shifting, relationships tested, and dangerous truths inching closer to the light. Fairmont Crest stood on the brink of a week that promised to change everything forever.